Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Astros, and that was pretty entertaining to watch. I'm here to recap game 122. Astros well over the Mariners, 12-3, and the real Astros have stood back up. What an evening for Houston. Offensive outburst, to say the least. It was a crazy good night. 12 runs, a dozen dropped on them, and they seemingly took it easy from about the fifth on. They could have just run the score up. So how did the Astros get 12 runs? Well, first inning, Jose Altuve walks Brantley into a fielder's choice, but he's still safe on first. Correa triples, the first triple he's had in a long while. That makes it 1-0. Jordan grounds out, which will score Correa to make it a 2-0 ball game. And Yuli grounds out to end the first. But hey, you score a pair, you take a 2-0 lead. Great. Second inning, McCormick with a walk. Then a Jake Myers home run made it 4-0 Astros, which Jake Myers has continued to just rake at this level, and it's fantastic to see. In the third, Correa singles, Yordan Alvarez absolutely smokes one for a home run. That made it 6-0, and then Yuli Gurriel would homer directly after that to go back-to-back 7-0, which I haven't been able to break these out in a while. But Yuli tonight makes it so I can put these on again. It's been a hot minute. But Yordan's home run specifically, I want to mention, that was just absolutely smoked. I think they said well over, I think it was 100 something off the bat. I think 106. I could be wrong. It was Yordan Alvarez smashed that thing, and it was not coming anywhere short of a absolute nuke. 29 of 30 parks that's out of. The only one it isn't is Comerica, and Comerica is a weird ballpark. Absolute just annihilation missile by Yordan Alvarez. Fourth inning, they keep piling it on. Brantley singles, Correa walks, Yordan doubles. It might have been a 2 RBI double. It wouldn't end up mattering because the runs would come around and score anyway, and what have you. But a fan did reach well over the wall to sort of rob an RBI of Yordan Alvarez. Now, I'm not a big RBI guy, so I don't think he's probably crying about it anyway, because RBIs are basically not much of anything. But I would mention that. So Yordan double, instead of maybe a 9-1 ball game, makes it 8-1. But, directly after that, Yuli would single to make it a 9-1 ball game. Diaz would pop out, but McCormick with a sac fly would make it a 10-1 ball game. Oh my goodness gracious, it was just a massacre. And then Jake Myers would pop out. Or ground out, excuse me. And then in the in the fourth inning, top of it, gosh, I can't remember which one is which. And I know that makes me bad. Kyle Seager. I'm like, I know it's one of the Seagers. Homered, which made it that point, 7-1 ball game, so it did break up a perfect game for that point for Lance McCullers. I'll talk about his night in a second. Then in the fifth, we got our last pair of the night. Maldonado with a home run made 11-1 Astros. Altuve would triple, Brantley would ground out, but Altuve would score 12-1. Triple night, which you don't see a ton of multi-triple games, but the Astros had that. Along with that, they had a ton of home runs. Now, in the sixth, or in the fifth, McCullers would give up one more RBI single. That was to, I believe it was the sixth, Abraham Toro. So Abraham Toro continuing to do damage against the Astros, which just seems like a theme here. And then a home run in the eighth, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Ty France home run off of Pedro Baez, which would bring us to the final score of 12-3. But what an evening for the Astros. So offensively, right? Pretty much who didn't have a hit? Altuve had a hit. Granted, it was only one, but he also had a walk this evening, so that's pretty all right. Michael Brantley only had one hit, but had multiple runs scored. Carlos Correa with a 2-for-3 night with a walk thrown in. He had a big 3 RBI night, or 3 runs scored night, excuse me. Yordan Alvarez, pair of hits. Yuli Gurriel, 3 hits. Just Diaz with a pair of hits. McCormick had a hit. Myers had a hit. Maldonado had a pair of hits. It was a bloodbath for the Astros offense tonight. And then that can sort of lead you to the other good part of the Astros, which was the pitching. Lance McCullers did a very, very good job tonight. 6 innings of work, got 8 strikeouts, only walked 1 guy, only gave up a pair of runs. Lance looked really good tonight. His slider, sinker were looking nice, which is great to see. He had a very nice evening of baseball. Brooks Raley came in, and you get a little bit nervous, but then you remember you have a massive lead, so you're kind of okay with it. You know, when you're up 11 runs, you're okay bringing in Brooks Raley, and he had a really nice inning of work. Got 3 strikeouts. Sat him down, I believe, in order. He looked pretty good. Am I saying I trust Raley now? No, certainly not. But I thought it was a fine inning from Brooks Raley. Pedro Baez would come in. Did give up the home run, but got a pair of strikeouts. Only gave up the 1, which, you know, you look on the sheet and it's lit up because there's a lot of 1s on it. But the hit, the run, the earned run, and the home run were all the same thing. So, like, granted, there's a lot on his sheet, but it was still a pretty okay evening for Pedro Baez. And in the 9th, Yimi Garcia comes in. He gets a pair of strikeouts for his evening. Fantastic. Pretty good evening overall for the relief pitching. I have no real complaints. Starting pitching from Lance was magnificent. And the offense tonight was just out of this world. Surprisingly, with all of those runs scored, they were only 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position, just because of how many home runs they had. Which, that's kind of funny to see. And this is one of those evenings where I'm very hard on the Astros for runners in scoring position hitting, because that's sort of where you win and lose games. I understand that for an individual player, I'm not going to only talk about like their batting average with runners in scoring position, but overall for a team, that clutch hitting, that hitting when you have guys on, is really when you win and lose games. Tonight, you have a 2 for 10, but I mean, there were just so many home runs. So I'm not too upset about it. That's not a detriment. And then when you also have a pair of triples, that also tends to help a bit, because one of those triples scored a run without him being in scoring position. So you see 2 for 10, that looks a little rough on paper. You look at the game a little bit more tonight, that 2 for 10 is very much deceiving. The Astros were magnificent tonight on offense. And what a dominant performance. For some reason, right, we face a guy in Yusei Kikuchi, who is very good road ERA, pretty good pitcher overall, and we annihilate him. We lit him up like a Christmas tree. On that entire Royals road trip, we could barely score on guys with 7 ERAs, and that's only a slight exaggeration. Most of them were above 5. Because the Astros make no sense, we go from getting absolutely curb stomped by awful opponents to absolutely just shanking a pretty good team in the Mariners in the first game. But that is it for the first game. We do play again tomorrow, 4:10 Eastern, 3:10 Central. They will send Logan Gilbert to the mound. He rolls in with a 4.42 ERA. Excuse me. We will send Jake Odorizzi. He rolls in with a 4.74 ERA. Seemingly a pretty even pitcher matchup. Hopefully it'll be an entertaining game. Again, 4:10 Eastern, 3:10 Central. I'll be here after that. So, that is all I have to say for the evening. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And as always, go Astros.